against the opponents that they've faced. You know, you've gone up against Blank last week for Ground Zero, and now Melbourne Mavericks, probably your two closest competitors, at least as far as last season is concerned. That really is going to put you in a poor position. You know, you've still got to face Sydney Dropbears, you've still got to face Order, so you can probably consider both of those losses. So then, in that case, you're down 0-4 with 3 games left to play, and your best case scenario was 3-4. That doesn't put you in a good spot heading into playoffs.
They went out with Wrecking Ball.
They scouted it out.
They've come back. Nami swapped across to Zaya. The Genji's gone. And it's, well...
They're moving so quickly that the Observer can't even catch up, Ben.
Yeah.
That's how coordinated Melbourne Mavericks are right now. Look at this. Moving as a unit.
Yeah. Really,
really solid as a pack. And here comes the dive in from Bus, but just to get some positioning up on the high ground.
Changing faster than the Melbourne weather they are, Elfishguy. Choco going to take a little bit of damage, as will Forballs. You can see Melbourne on the point already halfway through. Easy does it so far. Ground Zero aren't even contesting. You have to get on the point, Ground Zero. That's how it works.
Well, they're on the point now, but it might be too little too late. Dalsey does get an important pick onto Forballs, but it's just not going to be enough. Nobody on Melbourne Mavericks is dying, Ben. That's one thing that is wrong this series. Literally, Ground Zero, they lose all of their players, and they're barely trading out in the fight. Bust onto the Wrecking Ball, maybe has a last-ditch effort to get back to point A, but now he's kind of stuck on that for point B.
Yeah. I'm not sure, to be...
I don't mind Wrecking Ball on this point. There's a lot of verticality that you can play with. It's pretty easy to get slams off. When you have the minefield, it really can deny the whole point, but would you be better off with Winston or Reinhardt? That's the question you have to ask yourself when you're playing Wrecking Ball.
It's going to be difficult in 25% with Mini sitting here on an Earth Shatter and they walk into the point.
9 times out of 10, I'm going to say yes. You're better off with Reinhardt. You're better off with Winston.
Yeah.
Let's see what Bus can do.
Looking to do something, that's for sure. Choco going to get D-Mech there by his counterpart. Sound Barrier will come out from Melbourne as well aggressively. They go. Mini now has that Earth Shatter available, potential to hold it. Nope, doesn't matter. Throws it out. No one can stop it, Elfishguy. That's the problem when you don't have a Reinhardt. You don't even have a Winston bubble. There's very little that you can do. Already up to 1/3 self-destruct coming through aggressively from Melbourne. Also going to force back a lot of the Ground Zero players back onto the point. Does go Bus. Bus goes down once more. Choco caught out by Mini. Juboy tries to get onto the point. Baby Diva going to get found out also. Almost up to 100%.
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, this is just an utter demolition, Ben. Like, I don't know what to say about this, but Ground Zero, they're definitely not having the best of days today. They really aren't. It doesn't feel like a contest.
No.
Ground Zero,
Not their day.
What can they do? I mean, we thought Bus maybe on the Wrecking Ball could do something exciting like he did last season on Hollywood. Not the case. I almost feel like Ground Zero at this point are just so demoralized that they are going to need some sort of major morale boost to be able to get back into this game. And they're running out of time to get that as well. You know, this is win or lose the series now, this map. And already Melbourne Mavericks have finished off Horizon Lunar Colony on their attacking side, 5 minutes 35.
They needed like a McFlurry or something delivered at halftime.
I want McFlurry.
I want a double quarter pounder. Sweet chili sauce.
Ready for battle.
They used to have that, by the way. It used to be a burger. It was the best. I guess you can still get it, right? You can still just order it. But it used to be a thing.
So, on the defense, Melbourne Mavericks again going to be changing things up. That seems to be the name of the game against Ground Zero. This time it's, well, I mean, we've seen this before, right? We've seen this in previous seasons where you've got the Orisa and the Junkrat as that combo.
Look, I like it. I'm actually a big fan of the Orisa Junk, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't always work, but it can buy you a lot of time. Particularly when it feels like, I don't know, things haven't been going Ground Zero's way. So maybe this is just Melbourne's opportunity to really make life tough. Winter lurking on the sideline.
I was a little bit worried if he was going to stay there because, you know, once you're in that position, you can't really get out. I mean, obviously you can go around the outside.
Around the outside, around the outside.
But it's obviously a little slow and you can get picked off. He was quite isolated, but the science is better of it.
Oh, we're going to try and dive the high ground. Let's see how this plays out for Ground Zero Gaming. They push up, unsuccessful at attacking the high ground. Will now go down the left-hand side of the map. Still 6 alive for both teams. You take a look at ultimate charges as well. Winter appears to be the one closest right now, looking for that Riptire. Dowser going to go down to Nami. That's a good pick. Going to make life pretty tough now for Ground Zero to find their way on, particularly without the healing. Yeah, Bust found out also. So Dowsu's, I think, been struggling potentially. Not struggling, but has been picked off a couple of times now on the Zen. So twice now, I think, been forced across to the Moira instead. Yeah, he's definitely not enjoying his time at the moment. It's not easy, obviously, when you're Zenyatta and you're up against a Widowmaker. Yeah. Well, that's literally, if you watch the video, Jordan, that's what Widow's there for, right? Exactly. To take out Zenyatta. Bus needs to be really careful diving in like that as well, because there is a trap at the feet of the Orisa, and all it takes is one halt to just suck the Winston in, and Winston just gets absolutely obliterated as soon as that happens, as soon as he can't move. Yeah. Mobility is a big part of the kit, obviously. Ground Zero, though, in a better position. Oh! Look at that. A big suck hook coming through into the air, picked up by Nami with a headshot into Junker Jazz. Winter throws out the Riptide. Not a successful Riptide. Supercharge are going to come out from Mini also. This could be enough for Melbourne just to seal the deal here, I suppose. And it's been pretty difficult for Ground Zero really to deal with these Melbourne players. But Bus does manage eventually to take down the Widowmaker. Onto Gusto now. Winter doing what Winter can on the point. Gusto still in baby div form and still alive, but Ground Zero might be able to find themselves point. Melbourne not looking like they're going to try and contest. Well, that's a nice little bit of hope again for Ground Zero. A pretty solid fight win. Now heading into what will be point B, where Melbourne Mavericks actually don't have a lot of ultimates. They've all had to swap off onto the GOAT's composition. Thorball's the only one here with anything to really speak about. So if Locust gets a good grab, forces out that Transcendence, then the follow-up is decent from Ground Zero post the Transcendence. With the rally, with the sound barrier, with the coalescence, there should be enough for Ground Zero to actually win this fight. But it's important, it's imperative even that they get it done here and now in this first fight, because they're already behind on time. And the grab gets eaten. Gonna get eaten by Gusto. You can hear that terrible noise, the ding 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 ding, or whatever it makes as it comes through. Thorball's gonna prop the Transcendence, and Melbourne now in prime position to hold this one. Ground Zero really needed that grab to get them across the line here, to bring Melbourne all together and allow Ground Zero to hose them all down in one go. Not going to be the case. Melbourne win the fight. You can see they're also sitting on a ton of ultis. And yeah, not so good here for Ground Zero. It just can't go right for Ground Zero today, can it? Like literally everything they try to do, it's like trying to pick up sand and it's all just falling through their fingers. I mean, Melbourne Mavericks off that last fight have built all of their ultimates back up, with the exception of Furo, but realistically they don't need it at this point. They've got so much to play with. It's like trying to pick up sand, Jordan, but you realise you left your hands at home. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what's going on right now. And Ground Zero put everything into that fight as well. Admittedly, Locust has recharged the Graviton Surge, but Melbourne Mavericks, they've kind of gotten through the difficult period, and now this is where they've got kind of smooth sailing. 3:50 on the clock. To be fair, still quite a bit of time for Ground Zero to work with. But as you can see, they are not in a favourable position as when it comes to ultimate charge. So they either need to get a great fight win here, with perhaps a grab coming through and a self-destruct. Double grab, self-destruct coming through from both teams. The question is who's going to go down as Choco and Bust, followed up by Duboy, and everything the Ground Zero has thrown into that one has come out with nothing. Melbourne, on the flip side, have used Gusto and Nami's ultimates, and well, they've still got 4 in the pocket. I mean, you've got Choco back on the Diva here for this map, and Jungle Jazz back onto his Lucio, so you can see that Ground Zero are trying to work things around. They're trying to figure out what the change they need to make. What combination is actually going to work, but I just think they're too far behind right now for it to really matter. 3 minutes on the clock still for Ground Zero. It seems like a lot of time, but when you consider how each fight has gone headed into Phase B so far, they haven't really been close to being in a position to even cap one tick. Yeah. Melbourne Mavericks have been stopping them at the door. They certainly have. It's essentially like having a doorman, right? They're not letting in. You don't have a pass. Where are you going? Who are you going to see? No, you can't come through. Dowsu on the Transcendence, countered by Thorball's. A later Transcendence, I believe, coming out from Thorball's. See the Earth Shatter coming through from Bust. Double sound barrier also. Again, Melbourne using their ultimates just that little bit later. So theoretically, they would be in a better position, but Mini is quite low. Grab going to come out from Nami, and that seals the deal. Yeah,
The grab comes out here from Locust, but is it too little too late? It does get the two important picks of Winter and Mini now. Gusto will be demexed, but the self-destruct buying quite a bit of space here for Melbourne Mavericks. That's really important. He can't get back in the mech though, so that's a big loss. Nami as well going down. And Melbourne Mavericks are in stagger territory.
This is what Ground Zero needs. Transcendence coming through from Dowsu. Dubois caught out. Mini has thrown out the shadow captures. A couple of players. I'm not sure if it will be enough or not. Ground Zero in a better position than what they have been for sure, but with Bus going down and self-destruct coming through, needed to find some picks, not going to happen. Melbourne, of course, with that spawn point advantage, they spawn, no, not quicker, but they're so much closer.
I'm not sure how Mini survived that long, to be honest. He was definitely getting some pocket heals, that's for sure, but really should have gone down. Ground Zero, another opportunity that goes begging. Had a great opportunity there, but can't convert. That seems to be a big problem for Ground Zero, is just not being able to convert at all. This week or last week. Jungle Jazz coming up on the sound barrier. Bust, Locust both having those big impactful ultimates in this next fight. It's a must-win scenario for Ground Zero once again. They need that time on the board. They need to be able to challenge Melbourne Mavericks, but even if they do cap with time on the board, like, you've got 5.5 minutes for Melbourne Mavericks. Yeah,
that's the kicker here, Jordan. That's the problem for sure. Ground Zero, 1 and a bit fights remaining. They need to make this one quick if they want to come back and have a second shot. Locust with the grab available, but it's going to be Ground Zero who get caught out in that first grab coming through from Melbourne. Transfer from both teams. Down barrier available from Fluoro will be used. Junk Jazz already used his. By the looks of things, maybe not with the success they required. Gusto on the point with the self-destruct. That exploding mech not going to find anyone this time around. Nami low, Mini picked up. Gusto about to be demeched as well. Ground Zero finally finding themselves in a little bit better of a position. Ooh. Looking to try and maybe complete this with time on the clock. 13 seconds remains. They're finding the pick. Fluoro doing what he can. Mini charges through. There's 2/3. Looking to make it 3. Looking for 100%. Big grab coming through. Captures them out, but it's still Fluoro dancing around on the other side of the point. We're down to 0. We're into overtime, and they still haven't captured. Finally able to do it. But Jordan, one team did it in overtime, and one team did it with about 5.5 minutes remaining. So, look, it's definitely a step up from what we saw in the previous 2 maps.
Melbourne Mavericks, they achieved what they set out to do there, really. Like, as soon as that overtime ticks over, you can see they just, like, okay, they can cap it now. It doesn't really matter. They stopped trying to stall that point, and that essentially means now that Melbourne Mavericks have won the series. Obviously, there's no better result that Ground Zero can get here than a tie if they hold off that one tick of point A for 5.5 minutes, Ben, but it's a very, very difficult ask here. We're going to need to see something special from Ground Zero, that's for sure.
Look, Jordan, if Ground Zero hold this out for 5.5 minutes, then they are winners in my eyes.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. They may not get the points on the board, but look, it would be quite an achievement. Have we seen it before? I feel like
we have, like,
we've
once.
Seen,
I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Breakaway / Tainted Minds.
It was something odd. It was, last season, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. But it feels like it was last season.
Yeah, it was last season. Okay. Be interested to see what Melbourne Mavericks actually do roll out with here. I mean, they've got 5.5 minutes, so theoretically you can kind of do anything at the start, and if it doesn't work, just default back to the GOATS composition. Looks like, again, it's going to be the triple DPS setup with Mini on the Wrecking Ball to start off with, see what they see, and it looks like immediately they're going to go back and change, which is interesting, because I'm not sure what they were really expecting. Were they expecting Ground Zero to...
It's literally what they did the first time around, Jordan. I'm still not sure what it was.
Why? So. Were they expecting Ground Zero to run some sort of a DPS setup that they could have tried to counter out with that?
The first time ever, yeah. Not going to be the case.
Yeah, which is wishful thinking, I think, when you're up against Ground Zero.
Yeah. So, Melbourne pushing through. They need to find 1 tick, 33% on Objective A to secure themselves a win here on Horizon Lunar Colony. But as we said, even a draw will still secure them a series win, which is what they've already now guaranteed. There we go, looking for 1/3. The rest of the team will jump on board, finally trying to defend the first objective. Actually going to be a pick across to Mini first. That's not a bad one. Also, Locust finds Nami. The question is, will it be enough here from Ground Zero? Forbles doing what Forbles can. Forbles eventually going down. Ground Zero, Jordan.
They're holding strong.
Holding strong at like 32.9%.
Well, easy done, I guess, for ground zero. But you have to do that probably another 4 times. Took about a minute for that attempt for Melbourne Mavericks. Another 4 holds here for them. See what they can make happen. Bus going to go aggressive with the Wrecking Ball booped away. That's never a good feeling when you're going in for the slam. Does put him out of position here as well. Needs to get back to his team quickly.
Mini going to walk onto the point. Melbourne pushing through. Easy does it. Let's see what ground zero can do. They have a ton of ultimate charge to work with here. Forbles pops the Transcendence. A lot of ultimates coming out from Melbourne. Ground zero going to do the same. Jungle Jazz and Choco still holding on to theirs. Gusto still has a self-destruct in the back pocket as well. Ground zero finally in a bit of a better position at least when it comes to...
That's not what you want to see at all. It really looked like a fight that could go the way of ground zero there as well. Like, they held onto the sound barrier so long, the self-destruct was just about to come out, buy them some space, but well, unfortunately, not going to be the case. Melbourne Mavericks are going to pick it up, and that's 3-0 for Melbourne Mavericks now, so they've won the series.
Yeah. Congrats.
It sounds like you're going to cry. Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah, look, it's just not ground zero's day. It's quite obvious that their gameplay is not hitting the same level that they were able to even last week. Obviously, something not working for them today. But Melbourne Mavericks do pick up the series winner. Now it's just a case of ensuring that they get the 4-0.
Well, it's looking inevitable at this point, Elfishguy. Unless there's some secret Junkertown strat that ground zero has that we are not aware of. Short of that, it's definitely looking like this is potentially a 4-0 in the books for Melbourne, and honestly would actually be quite a crucial 4-0 for them, because we said that we thought this would probably be a pretty close matchup, and
on paper it should
on paper with the team comps that we saw last week, it probably could have been. But if you can come through up against an opponent that should theoretically come quite even to you at the end of the season, and you manage to find 4 maps against them, that puts you in a great position. You got your head-to-head, just 4 easy map, but you know, it hasn't been that hard for them, so it's not bad at all. Not
to mention also the fact that we've got Order up the top of the standings right now. We've got Sydney Drop Bears up toward the top of the standings right now. Also, we've got Melbourne Mavericks up toward the top of the standings right now. If you get a 4-0 this week for Melbourne Mavericks, there's a really good chance actually that you come out of this week being the top seed out of week 2, because Order and Sydney Drop Bears,
even if it doesn't really mean that you're the top in the group.
But Order and Sydney Drop Bears playing against each other this week, and you can expect that's going to be a bit of a backwards and forwards game. Maybe we're going to see maps dropped on both sides. So that's your opportunity to kind of pull just a little bit ahead here as Melbourne Mavericks.
Well, it's going to be Junkertown as we knew. We won't be seeing Nepal today, or at least not in this first match, because Melbourne have, of course, already secured themselves a series victory, looking to make it 4 map wins on the board. And we harped on about all season long last season, and people like Sandman, Elfishguy, you guys, a couple of geese, I suppose. It's more so what they'd say, because, you know, why do you keep harping on about it, and then it mattered?
Yep. It matters every season as well. Like, there's always been cases where you think, okay, if we win this 1 map or these 2 maps, they would have had a better head-to-head or for and against that would have been the difference between a team getting through to playoffs or a team getting a better seed in playoffs, and who knows where things go from there. But for Melbourne Mavericks, I mean, I don't think they're really looking at seeding right now or just getting into playoffs. They're really looking to almost top the group, pending their matches against Sydney Drop Bears and against Order. But certainly they've done a number to Atletico last week, who's one would argue within a competitive area compared to Melbourne Mavericks. The same could be said in theory for ground zero, where we would have think.
Yeah, well, these are the ones together. You can't control every game, Jordan. If you are not the best team in the region, you're probably not going to win every match of Contenders. But there are some matches that you do have a bit of say over, and these are those. And you come out on those ahead of your opponents, it's going to be a pretty good position to head through for the rest of the season. It takes a little bit of pressure off. Forbles going to start things off here on Junkertown, taking out Dowsu. Bus goes down, Forbles almost goes down. That's not to be the case. You can see they're going to run the Orisa out here onto the payload, and well, they will be able to get onto the ship very, very quickly and set sail, Elfishguy.
Yeah, that was a bit of a demolition, wasn't it? I guess it doesn't help if the Zenyatta just picks your opposition Zenyatta straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, Dowsu was a non-factor in that entire fight. It might as well have been a 5v6.
Hasn't been Dowsu's day for Zenyatta, which kind of sucks for Dowsu, I suppose. And it has been tough up against... I guess the thing is, right, when your opponent Zenyatta, they've got the Orisa shield to work with. They've got a Widow on their team as well. And you're trying to worry about all of these things, and they literally just have to kind of worry about you and maybe a Sombra. Like, it's, yeah, definitely more pressure this time around. Ground Zero going to find themselves some picks, and we able to stop the payload eventually.
Yeah.
It's got a fair bit of free ground here for Melbourne.
Felt like a little bit of Season 2 up in there for Melbourne Mavericks for a moment, but it does look like we're back to Season 1 2019 meta, where we're going to be swapping back over to the GOATS composition. As you can see, Winter has gone on to Brigitte. And a big change up for Melbourne Mavericks does put them behind quite far economically speaking, but I don't think that's going to worry them too much. They have been progressing along quite nicely, regardless of how the ults have looked for themselves. Choco and Bus, under a little bit of pressure there, do have to fall back. Locust with the EMP.
Yeah, great EMP, 6 people in that one, and that should be the end of the fight. Ground Zero following it up with a number of picks. Mini charges through, going to try and take Choco off the edge. Not going to happen. Almost, but no. Great work.
The gong rings out. Ground
Good
Zero.
job, Ground Zero. This is what we want to see. This is it. Keep going.
Yeah, look, I mean, a map here, if you get a map right now of Melbourne Mavericks, that's an achievement, I think, as Ground Zero, because they've been totally down and out. They've been downtrodden throughout this entire series. They're playing with a sub. It's just not been their day, but a map at least means you've gotten something out of the day.
Aggressive trans coming out from Forble's Gusto with the self-destruct as well. Ground Zero with far more ultimates to work with. Locust a little bit low, going to get healed up hopefully in just a second. Bust with the Primal Rage also. Mini going to get caught out there by the Winston. It's going to make life tough now for Melbourne on attack. Maybe Ground Zero holds strong once again. Melbourne going to be forced back and chased down. Dowsley getting aggressive as well with the Zenyatta. And Ground Zero starting to find form, Elfishguy. 65 seconds on the clock. Maybe Ground Zero can hold it here.
Maybe they can. And if they do hold it here, then that's a really good position for them to be able to push on through. Melbourne Mavericks on the defense will have a lot of work to do. But this is going to be the fight where Melbourne Mavericks will have their best opportunity. That said, EMP is going to deny it straight off the bat, and Fourballs just gets absolutely wrecked. So we'll have to wait for the next fight here. That one's a full reset out for Melbourne Mavericks, as it should be.
These have been some good EMPs, Elfishguy. Locust going strong.
Yeah, but now looking at what Melbourne Mavericks have got, and the fact that Ground Zero don't have a Xayah means obviously no Graviton Surge. Where for Melbourne Mavericks, they do have one. They've got a lot of ultimates here, so you have to think this next fight should favor Melbourne Mavericks on the attack. If Ground Zero can hold here, though, it will be very impressive.
Earthshatter comes through, does not really find the target. Aggressively, Melbourne push on to the point. This is what they have to do. They are running out of time, 10 seconds on the clock. The teams are split as well. Locust in the back line, trying to do some work there with a pretty decent
He does
Sombra.
a lot of work.
Yeah, doing a lot of work. Look at that, 1, 2, 3 go down as well. Forble's onto the trans, not going to be. 69.66 meters seems to be as far as Melbourne will get. Ground Zero finally finding themselves some footing here on Junkertown. Elfishguy potential now for them to find a map.
Yeah, and Sound Barrier finally comes through here for Fluoro. I don't know if you saw in the last fight, Ben, but Locust was literally chasing him around the map, hacking him so that he could not use the Sound Barrier. That's a big part of why Ground Zero did end up winning that fight. Inevitably, they also hold strong here on Junkertown. Great work from Locust. You just got to think, what would have happened if Locust would have played Sombra for the, last week? Earlier on this series.
Well, that's it, right? Because that was fantastic.
Had some different results.
Initiating match.
Not that one character is going to make that much of a difference realistically, but it's now you can see definitely an option for Ground Zero. And here's a perfect chance for them to get a map on the board as well today and just maybe rain on the parade of Melbourne Mavericks a little bit.
Well, it is Melbourne. Almost guaranteed to get some rain, I'd suggest. Anyway. This is the chance, Elfishguy. This is Ground Zero's time.
Well, don't tell me. Tell Ground Zero.
Well, Ground Zero, this is your time.
They're the ones that need to make this happen.
You can do it!
And how do they make it happen?
Actually, it's none of my business who wins. It doesn't really matter, but it does matter to the teams. And I want to see Ground Zero, I suppose, take something away from this. At least get close. That was a good hold. Probably the best we've seen them play all day.
Looks like we'll get the double sniper set up for Ground Zero as well here. Maybe, hopefully.
Imagine if this is what it takes for them to break out of GOATs.
Well, better in week 2 than in week 4, 5, 6, 7, where they don't get any map wins.
Yeah.
If they figure out what they want to do now, it's obviously better than figuring it out later in the season. Swaps come across, though, from everybody, so we're back onto standard GOATs.
We are disappointed.
But regardless, if it works, that's what matters. And I think Ground Zero are really expecting this one to work now. They don't have too far to go. They've got a lot of time to play with. One map definitely within striking distance for Ground Zero.
Melbourne lurking around the side. They're going to come through with the flank straight into the back line, looking to find Dowstu out once again. They get aggressive. It's actually Bus caught out first. The Reinhardt will go down. Such aggressive play coming out from Melbourne, even though they're on defense. Baubles found out, and of course, the spawn advantage here in favour of Ground Zero. So anytime that Melbourne loses a play, and you can see as soon as they lose Dowstu, as soon as they lose Baubles, sorry, they're forced to fall back. Try again. Ground Zero, on the other hand, they are already onto the payload, and it does not need to go far at all, Elfishguy.
No, it's almost halfway there, actually. It's probably more than halfway there now. So Melbourne Mavericks are going to have to be really proactive on this defense. They cannot allow Ground Zero to get territory for free. But neither team has got ultimates available just yet. Melbourne Mavericks leading on that front, though. Baubles very low, so they can't engage just yet.
Standard GOATs up against standard GOATs. You'd think maybe Ground Zero has the advantage. Let's see if it plays out that way. If it was any other regular season match, that would certainly be the case. But right now, Melbourne looking to find themselves a couple of ultimates. Trant's going to come through from Baubles to try and perhaps work with Mini's Earthshatter coming through. Look at all of the barriers here on Melbourne as well. Going to find the kills. Ground Zero stopped in their tracks.
Well, a lot of ults thrown in there from Ground Zero for not a whole lot of return. I guess the benefit here, at least for Ground Zero, is they do still have 2 minutes to build their whole roster of ultimates back up again. They need to ensure that they're going to use them properly and get value out of them for what would be then their final fight. These next few probably a bit more dry for Ground Zero. Melbourne Mavericks have got not much to play with either. But it's always going to be more difficult to break that stalemate without the ultimates than to hold the stalemate.
Certainly will be Elfishguy looking to find some picks for sure. Jungle Jazz. We'll see when the sound barrier comes out at what point, whether they can go aggressive. It's Mini going to go down. This is a big play. You can see as soon as Mini goes down, they follow it up with an aggressive sound barrier. Self-destruct coming through as well. They do not need to get far at all. Baubles found out just Mini and Gusto to try and get back in time. At least the Diva can fly. Elfishguy. Can they fly quick enough? Looking for a charge potentially from Mini onto the point.
He won't get there.
The time is now. Maybe the charge on cooldown. Ground Zero finds themselves a map victory here on Junkertown. Thankfully, they come away with a point at least in the map column. They'll get 1.
Yeah.
Better than getting 0. But again, big congrats to the Melbourne Mavericks. Going to pick this one up 3-1. And putting themselves in a pretty good spot on the scoreboard right now. To be fair, they are on top of the scoreboard since no one else has won 2 matches.
Yeah, no one's played their next match.
But still, 2 wins from 2 weeks. Got to be happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. It's the ideal start for Melbourne Mavericks, and it's definitely the exact opposite of that for Ground Zero. Now they're 0-2 from 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Look, again, this week they've had issues. They've had to play with the sub. That has obviously affected their preparation coming into the season. But for Ground Zero, you can only look forward to rebuild. You know, you got to think it can't get worse than this. Okay, if we keep losing, then we keep losing. But we've been losing the whole season anyway. So let's just look forward. Let's forget about how those first 2 weeks went. There's still 5 weeks to go. If we have 5 solid weeks, you can come back with a 5-2 record. That assumes you can beat Sydney Drop Bears in order. But it's not impossible, right? So I think that's what Ground Zero need to really focus on right now. And for Melbourne Mavericks, they just need to keep doing what they're doing. Keep that solid coordination, keep scrimming hard, keep making sure that they build this team into something that really could go far this season.
Yeah, well, that's definitely what we want to see. And you can see all maps we played today, Oasis, Kings Row, Horizon, Luna Colony, all very quickly going in Melbourne's favour. Funnily enough, the one map that Ground Zero actually did win was also quite a quick map. Quite a convincing victory, really, coming out from
very
Ground Zero.
weird series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, watching those games, it didn't feel like watching other games that we've been able to spectate so far. You know, you generally come into it with an idea of like how each fight is going to play out and when the fight starts.
Season 1 Elfishguy.
Yeah, it's a little just a little bit messier there. I felt like today.
It's kind of like a ramen burrito, right? It's just
what is a ramen burrito?
It's like stuff that goes in ramen, but you put it in a burrito.
Okay, that's a bit weird.
I think I'd like one. I'm not sure. But I didn't really like watching that because it wasn't exciting. It wasn't as exciting as it could have been. So
yeah, look, if you're Melbourne Mavericks, it was pretty exciting.
If you are a Melbourne Mavericks fan, then you're going to be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of our next match as well, I think that definitely is going to be a good one. We're going to get to see Blank again. Obviously, they are quite an exciting team to watch. A lot of DPS picks, a lot of variation out from them. So maybe we'll satiate your desire a little bit more in the next match, Ben.
Well, for now, Jordan, I'll deal with a Macca's player of the game. Let's go take a look. A McDonald's Australia player of the game. It was the Melbourne Mavericks up against Ground Zero Gaming. Let's take a look at this, Jordan. Mini, big plays coming through on Winston. Yeah,
Mini just pushing forward, providing so much space for his team, and then, you know, getting a couple of picks there. A third as well onto Locust. Great stuff out from Mini, who does replace Gob in the roster here for Melbourne Mavericks. But that's nothing new, I don't think, for this roster in particular. But for yeah, I mean, great stuff. It's always kind of fun to see the Winston play the games because we don't really get to see it too often. And I think for a lot of people, you know, you see Winston, you see him in Prime Rage, like, yeah, he just hits stuff. But it's actually a lot more difficult than you would give it credit for. It can be kind of
hard to get actually get some pick. Yeah.
And even the jump, like, how far forward you jump and where exactly you land is very important on Winston. So always like to give credit to the Winston play of the games.
Okay, well, we did this time. Big congrats to Mini. Big Winston play.
Big max for Mini.
Big max for Mini, yeah. Overall, what do you think of the next one, Jordan? It's going to be Blank up against Mindfreak. The big thing last week, the big conversation coming out of week number 1, Mindfreak ending the Sydney Drop Bears winning streak, at least in the regular season, picking up a map. What a surprise.
Yeah, very big surprise, but I also think it's going to be a tough ask for them going up against Blank here. Blank looked really, really solid last week. Now, whether that was because Heist or /Ground Zero weren't really performing to their level, or because Blank had really elevated themselves from last season, I think today is going to give us a good idea of what the answer to that question is going to be. If Blank just come in here and absolutely destroy Mindfreak, then I think we can really start looking at Blank as being one of the top contenders for the season.
Well, don't go anywhere, guys and girls. It's going to be Blank up against Mindfreak right after this.